Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 35, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 1. Basically, Karen insisted on wanting to live somewhere cheap because she wanted money to buy somewhat nice clothes, to be able to enter restaurants with a dress code. She tried to play it off as something ladylike, but it was 100% due to her gluttony. But Nick and the others argued that leaving nice clothes in a cheap inn would inevitably lead to them being stolen, and those clothes would be ruined if they started smelling like shady herbs. Eventually, they managed to convince Karen to move. They went to the post town called South Gate, where Nick was staying. The people staying there were vulgar, but most had respectable occupations. Half were adventurers and half were merchants working away from home, so it was a comfortable place to live if you were used to this sort of thing. But it wasn't a very friendly place to outsiders. There were a lot of unspoken rules about how to use the rooms, the order in which people could use the well, household items that could be rented, etc. Rent could be low if the tenants followed the rules. It was nothing like East Gate, where people happily loitered around during the daytime. So Karen and Bond. Let's go with this inn for now. I don't care where I'm staying as long as it's not expensive. Do I also need to pay rent? I could just turn back into a sword. It's 1,500 dinner a day, and we're making money, so bear with it. And Bond, if turning into a human isn't a burden for you, keep that form as much as possible. People will think it's weird if you keep appearing and disappearing, and we want to avoid making the guild suspicious. Alright. We don't have a choice. The inn they agreed on was an old wooden building. The sign on the entrance had completely worn off, but this place was leagues ahead of where Karen had been staying. This place is pretty good for its price, but don't forget that they only rent for 3 or more days at a time. So what if it overlaps with days when I'm out adventuring? They'll return 20% of what you paid if you cancel. What a waste. You have to think about your schedule. And few things get stolen around here, so you can leave your stuff. There's even a box that's locked with a magic item. Really? Really? And most people here are intermediate adventurers, so people that are clearly robbers can't get inside easily, and they might get beaten up if they try. It might even be safer than some high-class inns. What do you think? I don't hate it. Karen was thankful for the consideration. Nick didn't even demand anything in return. He jokingly said she'd better thank him, but he never demanded anything more from her than things like picking a new inn. Karen looked at Nick with respect. If Single Meal Fifth was who she wanted to be, Nick was like an older brother. Then let's go with this one. And Karen, come to my room tonight. He should be like an older brother, but Karen was shaken by those words. That night, Karen went to Nick's room just like he asked. Yes, that's good. I'll like this. You learn quickly, Karen. Now let's do this. It's too big. I can't. Come on, just try. Ah. Karen let out an uneasy sigh. I am at my limit. Nick. Good grief, alright then. Leave it to me. Why yes. It's just like 2-digit calculations. Listen, first you buy 5 swords for 9,800 dinner each. It says you get a 5% discount if you buy them all together, but if you take it one step at a time there's no problem. First you add everything. Nick sounded very serious as he solved a math problem. The introductory book he bought in a bookstore was open, and Karen looked as though her head was boiling, as she frantically wrote with her pen. Why are you studying so seriously? How dull, how dull. Grumbled Bond as he watched. Shut up. You can cheat to do calculations, so just sit there and be quiet. Cheat. I have always had this calculation feature. It's not fair. Even you, Karen. Good grief, you can live without knowing how to do calculations, just rely on me. Said Bond proudly, but I can't trust you. Karen put a stop to it bluntly. How? Why? It's not like it's just you. If you leave something to someone else because it's hard, it's going to come back to bite you one day. Ah, that is what you mean. You scared me. That's why I asked Nick what to do so I don't get tricked. And then Karen peeked at Nick. Karen wasn't good with numbers, so I thought I'd teach her when we had the time. I didn't think you'd call me to your room all of a sudden though. Grumbled Karen with a light blush on her face. Ah, did you have plans or something? It wasn't anything like that. HN. Ah. Sorry. Nick didn't notice that Karen was agitated, and apologized half-heartedly. Bond, bored by what he was watching, yawned. You sure are serious about this. Is arithmetics really that important? There are people that target others that are bad at calculations, because a lot of adventurers come from orphanages or remote villages and can't study that sort of thing. I used to get tricked a lot too when I was a kid, so if I didn't buckle down and learn, it would be a matter of life and death. There are some evil people out there. We're all tricked by evil people. Stop speaking like that, it is hurting my heart. I'm getting sad just saying it too. Anyway, this is important. Yes, I understand. Leaving that aside. What? I want to go out somewhere. Take me. So that's what you really want? Nick sighed. Yes, yes. We are free today and tomorrow anyway. We are not going on adventures, correct? Yes, it looks like it's going to rain, so we're taking 2 or 3 days off. We just finished a big job too, taking you out of the labyrinth. You also received a nice reward. Do you not feel like going out into the world? I have not been outside in many, many years. HN, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. Karen, do you want to take a break? Yes. There was a twinkle in Karen's eyes. She was tired of studying. All right. Then let's go out and get something to eat. By the time the trio left the inn, the sun was setting, and the street was painted red. The area around them had a lot of taverns aimed at residents of the inns. Lights were starting to be turned on, and people started stepping outside to try to attract customers. All the places around here that try to attract customers are duds, so don't get your hopes up. Well, there aren't any obvious rip-offs either. Yes. Anything is good. But I do not like barley or millet porridge. Bread or fried rice is good, but I like to avoid fish with too much salt. So not anything then. How about meat? Nick walked past the street full of taverns, and headed towards a place in a somewhat quiet spot. This place is a daytime cafe, so there aren't many annoying drunks. It's fancy. The warm light coming from the glass candle holders illuminated the entrance to the brick building. On the door was a blackboard with the day's menu, alongside illustrations drawn with light brushwork. It is. After all. It was Café Fromage, the place where Nick used to go on dates with Claudine. It brings back bad memories. Nick remembered the face of his ex-girlfriend, or rather, the girl that led him on. Looking back, Nick felt so embarrassed about giving so much to such a nasty girl, he could die. Nick even felt slightly irritated just looking at carefree-looking girls with blonde hair. What's wrong, Nick? Nothing. You are hungry, are you not? Let us go in right away. As Nick was considering going somewhere else, Bond opened the door, and the bell attached to it rang. Welcome. Table for 3. Please come this way. The waiter led them to a table. Nick used to always see this man when he went on dates with Claudine, but he didn't seem to be surprised by Nick walking in with another girl. Nick was thankful for that. Ho ho, such a rich menu. I will have the soft and creamy demi-glacé omelette with rice. That was fast. I'm surprised you know so much about this world. I do have knowledge. I tapped into the guild's communication orb just a little. Don't overdo it. What about you, Karen? Butter roasted beltfish with soy sauce accompanied by couscous. I will leave the wine up to you. You really are a gourmet, aren't you? What's beltfish like? I've never had that. It's a white meat, long and narrow fish that lives in the sea. It doesn't really have a strong taste, but I recommend it if you like cooking from the south. If you don't, it probably won't be that interesting. Wait, you can eat sea fish here. Claudine only ate food that looked simple and easy to understand. Ordering something that was so different than what they used to have back then wasn't a bad way to erase the lingering impression of those days. Nick decided to order the same thing as Karen. The cafe wasn't very crowded, but they could still hear light conversation. Do you like it? Asked Karen after Nick took one bite, with a slight tone of insecurity. Why are you so nervous? I mean, it's my first time recommending something. Yes, it's good. You have good taste. It did have a light taste, but if you took your time eating it, its subtle taste would become more pronounced. When Nick went to that cafe before, he was too busy trying to please the person in front of him to actually enjoy what he was eating. He laughed at himself as he thought about it. That's right. I'm a gourmet. Geez. How much do you spend on food? Karen's smile cleared away Nick's hazy feelings. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 36, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 2. A few days after they found a new inn for Karen. That is the Rakshasa, correct? Yes, the boss of the ice den of the Rakshasa. Don't let your guard down. Survivors were exploring the ice den of the Rakshasa again. They moved while hidden, until they were close enough to see the terrible blue-skinned goblin. It was an opponent survivors had defeated numerous times, but it was not always the same being. When miasma became thick, new monsters were born. The Rakshasa that stood before them should have no memories of being defeated by survivors, but bore an intense fighting spirit. This also served as a test for their new member. Now observe my blade. Ah, idiot. We managed to not make a noise until this point by using telepath to talk. Growling. Bond ignored Nick's scolding, and jumped at the Rakshasa in front of him. There was no hesitation in his step. Shah. Sharp claws were swung at him, but Bond stopped them with his blade. He couldn't use his original sword of Bond's while in human form, so he was using a plain two-handed sword. But an attack of pure strength and no skill will not work against me. Goo. Bond stopped the attack dead in its tracks with the tip of his sword. It wasn't strength, it was skill that brought about this state. These movements that were not unlike an old, skilled swordsman's put fear into the Rakshasa's eyes, even if they came from the body of a little girl. Gwa! The Rakshasa jumped back, and started to concentrate magic energy in its hand. It was ice magic, but not the same as Tiana's icicle dance. It was ice bullet, which shot a big mass of ice. But still. Choya. Bond swung his sword, and changed its course. Gwa. After seeing its secret technique being dealt with so easily, the Rakshasa started to panic, and Bond did not let this opening slip away. 2. In a second, Bond jumped towards the Rakshasa and targeted its neck, but his target was too obvious, and it managed to defend in time. Steel and claw clashed. Guh. Guo. Parallel. The moment the fight became close, Bond won. Suddenly, another Bond appeared behind the Rakshasa, and swung his sword. Gwa! The Rakshasa screamed as it fell. All right. What do you think? That wasn't fair. Nick whispered in a perplexed state. This was the true power of parallel. It made it possible to create a human body based on the user of the Sword of Bonds, but it wasn't restricted to only one body. Nick, with your current skill, it is possible to create 5 bodies. Not bad. You say that, but I'm still kind of tired. Well, that is because I borrow your vitality and magic energy. Erase. Mumbled Bond, as the body that delivered the finishing blow to the Rakshasa disappeared. Wow. It's like single meal fifth. Ah, I've heard about the doppelganger user. Single meal fifth was one of the few rank S adventurers in the Labyrinth City. He was a warrior skilled with both sword and magic, but he had a special technique that you could say was synonymous with him, doppelganger. It was an incredible technique that allowed him to create copies of himself, and become both a vanguard and back row all by himself. There is someone that can use doppelganger. He must be very good. HN. Is it stronger than parallel? It depends on the situation. Doppelganger is magic that manifests various you from the inner universe into the outer world. Its nature is completely different from a method of attack like my parallel, and it can be used in a multitude of ways. Above all else, doppelganger consumes more magic energy and allows its user to maintain its copies for longer. Some can even walk around with their copies for hours. I wonder how long Fifth can do it. Do you know Karen? Probably more than half a day. The other day he was in line to buy cheesecake that was restricted to one per person, but he had 5 copies in line with him. That sounds like a dream-crushing sight. That old man is a rank S adventurer, right? Does it? Everyone was laughing. That single meal fifth sounds surprisingly funny. Well, even if I am not a doppelganger user, I am useful, am I not? Bond laughed with an air of self-satisfaction. Yes, all sarcasm aside, you're pretty good. Not just parallel, but your swordsmanship is better than intermediate adventurers. Where did you learn that? They installed basic sword techniques during my development stage. Installed? Nick was confused by a word he wasn't used to hearing. Tiana and Sem didn't know what it meant either, and shook their heads. Basically, the sword skills of my previous owner were put inside me. That's really not fair. That again, you bad-mouthed boy. Now, I'm just joking. In any case, it's obvious we can count on you. The vanguard will be me, Karen, and Bond, and we'll watch each other's backs to reduce accidents. With a stronger vanguard, the back row will have to use less magic. Our balance is becoming pretty good. Does that mean we can challenge higher-ranking labyrinths? Tiana asked, full of hope, and Nick happily nodded. Yes, with ease, I think. Phew. And you even have a great special technique, do you not? Bond proudly laughed, but we can't use union so easily, said Nick with a stern expression. If we use it, we're down for the count, so we can't use it carelessly. And you know. What? It has a low success rate. When we fail, I feel sick. Survivors actually tried to use union a few times, but even combining with Karen, like Nick did successfully before, wasn't perfect, and it worked about 1 out of 3 times. Tiana and Sem weren't successful in using union even once. Why yes, but if you practice a little more, you will be able to do it. I guarantee it. It's fine, just having a trump card is a plus. Yes, is it not? Now, becoming high-rank adventurers isn't just a dream. Thanks, Bond. Why, you know, it would be nice if you were always this docile. Bond's face was red as he turned away. Karen gave him a tap on the back, and for some reason Sem, Tiana, and Nick followed suit. Say something. I do not understand the meaning of this if you stay quiet. It means we're counting on you. And then, they returned to Fisherman once again. They were cashing in their materials as always, when they were surrounded by colleagues saying things like, "Ho, nice haul again today," and, "Stay here and have a drink once in a while." Before finally slipping away from the crowd, Nick answered, "Oh, be quiet and go out adventuring instead of drinking." "See you later," said Nick, and Bond was shocked. Is that it?" "That's right. I was sure you were all going to a different place to eat something good. We have a rule to not mess with each other's interests. I know, but... Do you not want to go have fun? No. Nick didn't want to bend the rules too much. Having that said, Nick himself realized how hard it was to completely follow the rule to not interfere with each other's private lives. He already interfered in Karen's private life, but he still felt there was a line that shouldn't be crossed. I am not telling you to stay together all the time, but I am unfamiliar with this land, and does it not feel a little lonely to go your own ways with nothing more than a good job, everyone? You are not part-timers in a convenience store or a factory. What does part-timer mean? Sometimes you use some strange ancient words. Regardless. I won't say you should do it every time, but having a feast to celebrate once in a while would not hurt. That sort of thing is part of being an adventurer. Feast. Look, how about there? That place you, and Karen went to the other day. Ah, fromage. But that is a cafe and restaurant, it's not the kind of place to get drunk. We do not have drunks here. Correct? Bond looked at everyone. I like blabbing to women sitting next to me and serving me drinks more than drinking itself. Sem is not opposed. Tiana? I'll go if there's sweets or tobacco. I guess there are sweets, but there's no way they have tobacco. Wait, you smoke. Well, I don't really do it in front of people. So what now? Let's try it. And thus, survivors decided to go to a restaurant to celebrate. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 37, Bare Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 3. Survivors reached Fromage in the early afternoon. This meant that the lunchtime rush had just ended, and they didn't have to wait before being led to a table. Oh. You picked a pretty fancy place, Nick. What do you think I am? Ah, I'm having a sandwich set. Are all the waiters men? There aren't any girls. Ah, I see. Sem, please stop trying to find girls you can hit on. Omelette with rice. I desire omelette with rice. Nick, this is good. Eat this, you can't go wrong. The four of you be quiet and get our order straight. Ah, I'm sorry for the noise, Mr. Waiter. Are you all fine with wine? We will be having water too, so I will be leaving it to your discretion. The waiter lowered his head and took their order. Maybe their timing was good, because they didn't have to wait for long until their food and wine arrived. Here's to a job well done. Cheers. Nick listlessly raised his cup, and everyone followed. The food was good, and the conversation flowed naturally. And you know, that race the other day was amazing. The dragons started fighting and there was fire and ice flying all over the place. Tiana, do people die in those races? Don't be silly, Nick. That's why it's so much fun. Sorry, I don't get it. I'm kidding. There are walls and magic barriers, so people don't die that often. That's a good way of saying that people do die sometimes. They talked about their interests. The idol that's shining the brightest nowadays is Citron. She can sing and dance, but she's very charismatic, and her talking between songs is a cut above the rest. It's a little frustrating because my favorite is Agate, but I also have to recognize how disciplined her fans are. Ah, and I met a guy named Willie recently, and he taught me Cillian dance. You start talking really fast the moment you start talking about idols. Your eyes are scarier than when you were about to hit an ogre. We're all like that. And they talked about their interests. Lately, the sandwiches sold by the stalls in parks have been becoming popular. I had fried octo with fried onion, lettuce in between, and I even put chili tomato sauce, and it's really good. The best one is the one ran by an old lady, close to the entrance of the botanical garden. Your topic is the most helpful, Karen. Good job, Karen. I'm going there next time too. Ah, really? Hee. And they talked about their interests. And then Hey, Sem. Yes. Let's not talk about this in front of the girls. Yes. You can tell me when we're alone. So do you want to come with me, Nick? When I tell the girls about my adventures, they always ask me to bring along one of my party members along with me next time. Hold on, don't drag me into this. But maybe the excitement of suddenly taking you to a hostess bar or a girls' bar would be too much for you. Maybe a calmer snack bar would be better. Or how about a club or a show bar? Sorry, I have no idea what's the difference. And they talked about their interests. The conversation was very animated, and then a couple sat at the table behind them. Nick lowered his voice out of politeness, and the others also lowered their tone. They ate the food that was almost untouched, because they talked most of the time, and the day ended peacefully. Or at least it would have, had they not listened to the conversation behind them. Claudine. This is a birthday present. You remembered. I'm so happy. Nick heard a name he recognized and looked back. Sure enough, it was Claudine, the girl that ripped him off, and sitting across from her was a naive-looking young man. Kaya, I'm so happy. This is the one I wanted. I'm glad you like it, Claudine. Claudine looked at the necklace she took out of a cosmetics case with a joyful expression, touched the jewel lovingly, and carefully put it back. Aren't you going to wear it? No way, that's a waste. It's so beautiful. I have to store it safely. That's true. But. Sorry, I came here today to tell you something important. What is it? This is sudden. I have to go back to my hometown. My mother is in critical condition, and I was told to go back right away. She doesn't have long. Oh no. The young man raised his voice as his face turned pale. Claudine then started talking in a passionate manner, as if she was sobbing. But it's really far. It takes about a month to get there by stagecoach, and it's really expensive, but I really want to repay my debt to my mother, who supported me when I said I wanted to become an adventurer in the Labyrinth City. This is too painful. It feels like my heart is going to shatter into pieces. Leave it to me. Nick couldn't bear to listen anymore, and before he knew it, he was sitting next to the naive-looking young man. Gay, Nick. Hi Claudine. What? I'm done with you. Claudine broke into a cold sweat as she glared at Nick, but he didn't care, and started talking. When did your mother move so far away? You told me she lived in town about 3 days away to the east. And a birthday present? I didn't know you could have 2 birthdays in the same year. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 38, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 4. Who are you? Do you know him, Claudine? The naive-looking young man turned to Claudine in a state of total confusion, but she was too busy glaring at Nick to pay him any attention. And Nick, wait. What are you? Take that out. Ah. That necklace looks pretty expensive. That has nothing to do with you. If you take that and sell it, you will be committing fraud. The talisman I gave you was an item for practical use, but this is clearly a high-quality item with a written certificate. Do you really think you can gloss over this like you did before? Albert, let's go. This weird man isn't going to leave us alone. But Claudine, he said your name. Albert was flustered as he looked at both Nick and Claudine. Nick couldn't help but pity him. You have to be careful and cover your tracks. Oh. Now that I think about it, the other members of the Steel Tiger crew aren't here, are they? It's not like we're always together. Could it be that you're not just trying to cheat this boy, but you're also trying to run away from Leon? Are you trying to end this before they track you down, now that you've got something valuable on your hands? What are you talking about? Give him back the necklace, Claudine. Do you know each other? Albert had been looking on awkwardly. He was dressed rather well, and was probably the son of a merchant from a wealthy place, or a noble. Cheating a noble, how stupid are you? What will you do when this comes to light, thought Nick, but he soon realized he was the bigger idiot for falling for such an idiot, and giving her what she wanted. Let's go Albert. This guy is crazy. But Claudine, he doesn't just know your name, he also knows the name of your party and your leader. Anyone can find that out with a bit of research. Do you plan to take that necklace and run away, Claudine? You're going to be wanted for stealing jewelry from that boy. Is that how you want to live? Basically, he was threatening her by saying he could report her at any time. Even if she could cheat and scam one person at a time, if two victims offered their testimony at the same time and they examined Claudine's lies and contradictions, the situation would change. Damn it! Claudine, enraged, threw the box with the necklace and ran from the cafe with a stray cat-like agility. That was close. What if you damaged it? Nick safely caught the box, and returned it to Albert. Thank you. By the way, Nick. Can I call you Nick? Yes, sorry for butting in all of a sudden. I'm Albert, and I have an armor and equipment store. So. What? I was being tricked, wasn't I? Yes. That's pretty much it. And no way. I don't mind helping you if you want to sue, but I was tricked by her too. Give me a minute to sort out my feelings. Yes, alright. Albert dropped his shoulders, and looked as though he was about to start crying. Nick felt sorry for him, but at least he recovered what he had given her. Hey Nick. As Nick struggled with these complex feelings, Karen roughly grabbed his shoulder. Karen. Sorry about that. Explain what's going on. What were you thinking starting a fight all of a sudden? Sorry. Albert stood next to Nick, as he meekly apologized to another member of his party. I see. Nick returned to his table, and explained what had just happened. The three of them looked furious as he was explaining. Bond then asked, what is with you three? I understand that what she did was a despicable crime, but your bloodlust is tremendous. Of course. That's right. Hell is too good for people that trick someone else and lead them into a trap. Eek. Bond asked casually, and the response he received frightened him much more than he was expecting. The words that came out of the mouth of the usually gentle Sem astonished him the most. Everyone here was cheated in some way or another. Well, I'm the idiot for giving anything to someone like that. I should have just burned her. Hey, you're gonna start a fire. I'll do it outside. Jokes aside, if you do want to get back at her, I'll help. Yes, you can count on me as well. Yes, well. Thanks. Their extreme reaction actually made Nick calm down. If anything, they were so concerned about him, that he didn't want to take them with him to some worthless revenge. Nick decided to forget about that woman for the moment. He threatened her with evidence in hand, so she would surely stop her shabby scams for the time being. That was what Nick thought, and that was why he was so surprised the following day. It happened in the Adventure Guild Fisherman. I think it's time to learn how to do collecting quests. Yes. Understood. Alright, let's make some money. Nick and the others sat at a table in the guild, mainly talking about work. Basically, there are a lot of plants that only grow in labyrinths, like medicinal herbs and poisonous herbs. Sem knows more about it than me, but most are used in compounds. There are also quests to gather minerals in cave-type labyrinths, but if you're not experienced in that sort of thing or a dwarf that was raised in the mountains and is used to working in mines, it can be very difficult. Then again, the rewards are good too. So that's why jewels from labyrinths are so expensive. And that's also why some adventurers focus only on mining. As Nick started explaining, ale started dripping on his head. That was my treat, Nick, drink all you want. That's making you look pretty sexy, Claudine poured an ale bottle on Nick's head. Next to her stood a large tiger person, vulgarly laughing at Nick. Karen stood up without saying a word. Wait, Karen. But Nick stopped her. But. Let me talk. Claudine and Leon, right? Hey, I'm Leon from Steel Tiger Crew. Looks like you were a little rough on our Claudine yesterday. Leon had an evil smile, and Claudine smiled while hidden behind him like a shield. Yes, I did. Tormenting a frightened little mouse hurt my heart. What did you say? What do you mean what? And weren't you going to steal that necklace and run from Leon? I guess to an unpopular guy like you, every girl is a villain. Nick's words had no effect on Leon, and he assumed it was because Claudine had already put all sorts of things inside his head. But there was something more important to be said. Picking a fight with Leon. You villains have been so chummy your senses are numb. Stop drinking so much and start doing honest work. If you are looking for a fight, then let's go. Fighting and duels are forbidden in the guild, so come over here. Don't worry, this time it's one-on-one. Leon pointed outside with his chin, prompting Nick to go with him, and Nick followed. Hey, Nick. Don't worry, I'm used to fighting. Karen called out to Nick with concern, but Nick tapped her shoulder and stood up. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 39, Bare Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 5. There weren't many people in the alley behind the Adventurer Guild fishermen. There was an unwritten rule that, when a fight between adventurers broke out in a guild, the people in question should take it outside, so naturally, they went to this alley. Conversely, people that hung around this place were seen as troublemakers, so adventurers didn't really go there unless they had a reason to. Nick listened carefully to check if there was anyone hiding nearby, lightly clenched his fist and let go, and started getting ready to punch. Leon walked 10 paces ahead of Nick, and turned around. This will do, said Leon, to which Nick nodded. But the moment Nick put up his fists. No. I'm sorry about what happened. I apologize. Leon suddenly lowered his head, and Nick was perplexed. I honestly underestimated you. I looked down on you because Claudine said you weren't a big deal, but you created a party right after that and started making money. Getting people together and making them work isn't an easy thing to do, is it? And you warned me about Claudine too. She's pretty sly, so she'd cheat me too if I wasn't careful. I see. Leon's evil expression was all but gone, and he approached Nick in a friendly manner to gently pat him on the shoulder. So I have a little proposal. Proposal? You can take Claudine. Nick was not expecting this, and was completely taken aback. What are you talking about? Well, she's a good girl, but an even badder girl. Get it? There's a limit to how much you can fool around and work together. She cheated a lot of people, and a lot of people resent her. You're one of them, right? I've had a good time partnering up with her, but it's time to let go. I'm thinking about coming clean and handing her over to the people that resent her. So basically, you want me to buy Claudine from you? If you put it in writing that you won't sue me, I'll help you in any way you want. Sounds fun, right? That's stupid. Who's going to want to get involved in the slave trade in this day and age? And why would I want a villain that even villains don't want? You can just sell her off to a brothel or something when you're tired of her. And you know. What? You've been going around working with that dragon girl, that girl that looks like a noble, and that ignorant priest. I know what's going on. What do you mean? That dragon girl is the idiot that got tricked, right? The one they call a survivor. The other two are country bumpkins that don't know a lot about this town too, right? You're a bad guy too. What's your point? Hey, don't play dumb. You're just like me and Claudine, tricking them so you can profit too, right? I get how you feel. After being cheated once, you're not going to start helping people out of the goodness of your heart. yes, I get it. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Right. Ha ha ha. It's so funny my stomach's hurting. Ha ha. So little Nick, let me in on Thajbua. Leon's was stopped mid-sentence when he was hit on the chin, and was sent flying into a wall. Say that again you piece of trash. D-damn you. Is that how you treat a guy that's being nice to you? Angrily yelled Leon while staggering. His lip was bleeding, and it seemed cut. Nice? You're lying about wanting to sell Claudine, aren't you? You're just trying to scam me again because you think I'm doing well. It's plain as day, you loser. Huddling up like that because you're afraid to be cheated is what weaklings do. Your heart as small as the rest of your body. Did you really think I believed you? Even if you were telling the truth about wanting to sell her, it would still feel good to punch you. Are you really a tiger man? You're way weaker than dragon people. That was when Leon saw red, and drew a curved sword. He lunged at Nick without making a sound. He was fast, and his movements showed clear intent to kill. Wah! But Nick quickly drew his short sword and repelled it. An unpleasant sound echoed when blade clashed against blade. TCH, why are your reactions as good as beast people's? Just stay still and let me hit you. Do you really think you can beat me one-on-one? That's funny coming from some weak boy that was kicked out of his party. Right as he finished saying that, Nick kicked Leon in the stomach, but again, the sound of metal hitting metal echoed. Damn it, did you put something there on your abdomen? What the hell do you have on your legs? Nick felt steel with the tip of his foot, but it wasn't chain mail, it was like a metal plate. Both thought the other was thorough, and both retreated, becoming 10 steps apart once again. This time, Nick made the first move. He lowered his posture, almost like he was crawling. Coo! Leon realized he couldn't stop the short sword, and stepped back, but Nick wrapped himself around his lower body, almost like a snake. Wah! Before Leon knew it, Nick had put away his short sword and both of his hands were free. Nick used something like a tackle to take him down to the ground, and used his knee to stop the right hand holding the curved sword. Sorry, I'm better at grappling. I see. Leon had an odd smile, and a chill ran down Nick's spine. Wind cluster. Gwa! A cluster of compressed wind hit Nick in the back. Nick tried to move sideways to dodge at the last second, but was unsuccessful. Nick's balance was thrown off, but he took some distance. That was close, I didn't expect him to mount you like that. Nice timing, Beck. A sorcerer-looking man attacked Nick. Nick remembered him, he was one of the people that cornered him when Claudine said her farewell. Damn you, attacking me 2-on-1. Nick was caught completely off guard. He didn't have any intention of neglecting his surroundings, but in actuality, an ally appeared. Something cold followed Nick's back. You're the idiot for falling for a surprise attack. Said Beck, his neck was viciously grabbed. What did you say about surprise attacks? Gah. It was Karen, with anger burning in her eyes. She easily lifted the man. Karen. Sorry, you saved me. I told you. Jeez. Karen sighed. But it was not over. The sorcerer named Beck was done, but the same could not be said for Leon. At this rate, one of them might have died, and just as that thought was popping into Nick's head. That's enough, you idiots. An old lady's angry roar stopped everyone dead in their tracks. Gay, the old woman. Didn't I tell you to call me Wilma, you idiot? Ouch. Wilma threw a pen and hit Nick on the forehead. Nick knew that dodging it would only make her angrier, so he didn't move. Keh, you uncute boy. You saw I'm in a bad mood and didn't even try to dodge, did you? So what am I supposed to do? Isn't it obvious? Stand back. Sorry. Nick reluctantly lowered his head and stepped back. Leon right? You too. And Karen, let go of that idiot. TCH. Leon glared at Wilma in frustration, but quietly put away his sword. Nick and Leon both knew very well how much trouble it would be if they made an enemy out of a guild employee. Karen looked disinterested as she let go of the man's neck, who immediately went running back to Leon while coughing. So, what are you going to do? Didn't you come here to stop us? I came here to stop you from killing each other. If you don't use weapons and set up some ground rules, I won't stop you. Leon smiled. I see, so you don't want a fight, you want a duel with rules. Time to learn how people do things here at Fisherman. Do what? You don't know, little Nick. I'll teach you. Nick stared at Leon's grinning face, but he paid no attention and continued. Bare-knuckle arithmetic. The place became silent. After a while, an exasperated Nick broke the silence. What kind of nonsense are you sprouting? It really exists. Nick was obviously fed up, and Leon responded with irritation. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 40, Bare-knuckle arithmetic, Part 6. Nick, Leon, and the rest of the Steel Tiger crew and survivors were thrown inside a room in the guild. Everyone looked as though their blood was boiling. The rest of survivors heard from Nick what Claudine and Leon had been doing, and understood why this situation escalated into a duel. At the same time, Steel Tiger crew looked at Nick, the one that hit Leon, like he was their parents' enemy. Claudine seemed to have forgotten that she was ready to betray Leon, and looked at Nick with eyes of resentment. I'll explain the rules. I'm sure the Steel Tiger crew knows, but survivors don't, right? Of course not. Is this really that famous? Asked Nick, to which Wilma emphatically nodded. A lot of adventurers are idiots that have nothing more than physical strength. It would be very simple to solve everything with fist fights, but that wouldn't be good for the guild, so we prepared a different method of having a match. Bare-knuckle arithmetic. So basically, as the name implies, it's a competition that combines math with fighting? That's it. It's no joke or prank. Wilma responded very seriously to Nick's exasperated voice. They will alternate between fighting and math. First, the parties decide who is going to duel with their fists. Traditionally, the people that started the duel in the first place are chosen. And then you decide who's going to take a test with a lottery, right? Said Leon half laughing, and Wilma nodded. Yes, that's right. Hold on, we should be able to pick that. Nick raised an objection. Adventurers can cover for someone that's weak, but it's hard to cover for an idiot, or someone that was misjudged in the first place. One miss can lead to everyone dying, and that's why we chose randomly. It's not like I don't get it, but how is that related to a duel? It's a duel mediated by the guild, so you have to follow the guild's policy. If you don't like it, you can grab your blade or whatever and play war all you want. But we'll have to ask you to leave the guild. I don't really want to say this, but isn't there any else? I want to do something a little more serious. I'm very serious. You adventurers are all reckless idiots anyway. We have to train your minds too. What? Nick was at his wit's end, and Leon sneered. Are you trying to run away now? What did you say? Just as a dangerous atmosphere was rising again, a puff of smoke passed in front of everyone's eyes. It came from Tiana's alluring lips. Tiana. Why are you smoking? Asked Nick nervously, while Tiana smoked a pipe. Why? Well. Tiana usually didn't do it in front of the other party members, she would always do it in her room, Dragon Racetrack, or casinos, but now she was overflowing with the same dangerous air around her that she had when she first met Nick and the others, like she was about to kill someone. I can't control myself when I'm facing people I want to smack straight to hell. This time, she blew the smoke straight into Leon and his party. Leon trembled with anger, and there was a visible vein in his forehead. You care about your friends, You're pretty brave. I just hate guys and girls like you people so much I could die. Just talking to you feels like it's rotting my mouth. Ah, someone get me an ashtray. While holding the pipe in her mouth, Tiana put her heels on top of the table with a thud, and crossed her elegant legs covered by black tights. Seeing this girl that looked like a delicate doll act like a gangster made the men in front of her feel a strange pressure, and devilish charm. Even the enraged Leon had to take a step back. Mind your manners. And this is your leader's fight, right? Oh, excuse me. Tiana vocalized an apology, but it seemed there was no real remorse behind it. Anyway, I understand the logic behind it, but what do you do if fighting with fists and mind doesn't solve anything? What if it's a tie? We'll keep going until it's solved. First it's a bare-handed duel, then the test, and if that doesn't decide it, we do another bare-handed duel. You get the idea. I see. Nick nodded, but Tiana interjected with a question. By the way, what are we betting? Does the loser have to apologize to the winner? That can't be all right. This isn't a children's game. Yes, you're right. Leon responded with a smirk. Little Nick, you hit me all of a sudden, so I'll be taking at least 500,000 dinner from you. It was because you blurted out all that nonsense. Say what you want, but I have no intention of bending the conditions. So, what are your conditions? Nick started thinking, and Tiana interjected. Give back everything you stole. What did you say? I said, give it back. There was a dark cloud in Tiana's eyes, something you could only see in the eyes of someone that had something important taken away from them. Eyes of righteous indignation over the unfairness and injustice in this world. Tiana, this is Nick's duel, so. Sem admonished her, but Nick stopped him. No, it's fine. It's just like Tiana said. Are you sure? Yes, Tiana said what I wanted to say. That's my condition, give it back. Alright, then the conditions are decided. Leon nodded, and Wilma turned to Nick to ask a question. So Nick, do you accept this match? Nick hesitated. Thanks to Tiana, he had cooled off. Leon from Steel Tiger Crew proposed this match, and surely had some way to win. Nick. What? We'll win. That's right. Let's do it. Everyone responded strongly, as if to say that they were not weaklings that could do nothing but lose and sit quietly. Yes, they were survivors. Adventurers that could stubbornly survive any trap. Alright, let's do it. Nick and Leon will box. As for the written test. Wilma looked at two girls. Well, this is absurd, but I'll go along with it. Claudine frowned, but her eyes looked as though they were saying, I know I'll win. My heart weeps for a stupid opponent like the dragon person. Humph. Karen was picked in the lottery. Face me. Aren't you frustrated after so much provocation? Tiana violently screamed at Claudine, who responded with a sneer. Ha ha ha, complain about the results all you want, nothing will change, you idiot. Do you talk that lightly because your brain is light too? Mumbled Karen, which angered Claudine. At least you can talk trash, if nothing else. Karen quietly glared at Claudine. The match will take place in 1 week. We will be setting up a ring on the roof of the guild, so be ready. Yes, yes. Got it. Claudine and Karen nodded strongly, with fighting spirit bubbling up inside. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 41, Bare Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 7. I've lost count of how many times we've done this, but I still don't get why we have to come to my room every time we have a meeting. The 5 members of survivors were gathered in Tiana's room, and... Sorry. No, I didn't mean to sound so upset. Tiana was flustered when Nick got down on his knees and lowered his head. I'm not talking about your room, I'm talking about the mess I've made with that duel. Ah, that. It's fine, isn't it? No, I dragged you into my personal fight. Nick. Tiana let out a big sigh. I don't know about that Steel Tiger crew or whatever, but if our leader was the kind of person to bow to those idiot scammers, I wouldn't be in this party. But still. If anything, I question why they haven't been hauled off to jail yet. If the guild's people noticed, they could be witnesses too. Well, people say that it takes two to quarrel. Also, if we were going to sue them, we wouldn't take it to the guild, we would take it to the Order of the Sun. Order of the Sun? Repeated Tiana. It's the chivalric order in charge of safeguarding the public order of the Labyrinth City. They're under the direct control of the Lord of the City. Aren't you going to file a complaint with them? I've thought about it. Nick placed his hand on his chin. He could search for other victims like the young man of the armor and equipment store, file a complaint together, and then the chivalric order would start investigating. There was even a chance that they already were, but who knows how long that would take. They might even ask me to help, and that would leave me with less time to work. That's why most adventurers tend to not bother dealing with the chivalric order and solve their problems with duels instead. The old woman probably realized it would only prolong this problem too. In this country, duels had legal binding force. Whether it was about making someone a slave, a quarrel about money exceeding a certain amount, etc., solving it by unlawful means would surely not be valid, but as long as it stayed within the limits of the law, no one would complain. If anything, some people would even praise it as an act of manliness. Adventurers in particular had to display their strength, so they had a very big inclination toward solving their problems in this manner. But they could have at least asked what happened. I think that's what would have happened if I didn't take out my blade too, but I acted on impulse. That's what turned it into an "it takes two to quarrel" kind of situation. So that's why they're telling us to duel. I'm going to the guild again to explain what happened. Maybe they cheated more adventurers, but I'm going to hold off on going to the chivalric order for a while longer. Why? There's a good chance they'll cancel the duel. I'll think about going there after we beat them. Tiana and the others smiled broadly. If you're doing it, you better win. I mean, I'm sure we'll win. Yes. We can't let them look down on us like that. That's right, let's teach them a lesson. Thanks, but I want to explain exactly how it happened. Still, you guys don't seem all that surprised that this turned into a duel. Ah, about that. Tiana looked at Bond. It is because I heard everything. Heard? You weren't there in the alley, were you? I was not. So. Nick realized what happened. You cheated again, didn't you? It is not cheating. Angrily said Bond. I told you that my hearing and eyesight are very sharp. So you heard what happened in the alley. Do not tell me it is not good to eavesdrop or anything of the sort. When it became 2 against 1, Karen looked like she was on the verge of tears. Wah wah. I didn't cry. Ah, well. Nick had a strange expression on his face, which Bond found amusing. What? Sorry, I said you were cheating. All right then. Bond proudly puffed out his chest. So, did you call that old woman, Wilma? I did not. By the time I realized a fight was breaking out, the guild's people were already on the move. Really? I guess someone saw us, or... Nick started thinking, and after a while, he slapped his knee and looked at everyone. Are they in cahoots with each other? Said Tiana while frowning. I don't think so. Maybe if we were talking about high-rank adventurers or nobles, but we're all just intermediate adventurers. If someone has the power and influence to make the guild join their side, they would have no reason to be an intermediate adventurer. That's true. Anyway, we need a concrete plan. Sorry, but we're going to have to postpone next week's adventure. Yes. Understood. Got it. I guess there is no choice, is there? Karen, we need to prepare for the duel. Yes. We really need to drill this stuff into your head, Karen. At this point, Sem and Tiana are related to this as well, so we're going to need your help too. Is that alright? Why yes. Karen resisted the urge to step away from Nick's dangerous look. I see. How is it? Karen was solving problems in a cafe with private rooms. She was solving math problems that appeared in other duels in Fisherman. Basic arithmetic operations, distance and time, percentages, geometry problems to pick the shortest route, etc. Numerical calculations related to issues that an adventurer might have encountered while working. You answered about 70% correctly. I see. Karen sighed. Well, there's no need to aim for perfection. Let's just try to pass without issue. Said Sem calmly, after checking Karen's answers. The test portion of the duel wasn't decided by comparing the two and seeing who had the highest score. A terrible result meant failure, but if both had acceptable results, the match would be decided by the fist fight. But if I cause Nick trouble? Nick isn't concerned about that. But, depending on the difference in points, there would be a handicap added to the fist fight. For that reason, Karen had to beat Claudine. Good grief, you really should just rely on me. Are you really that naive? Complained Bond as he sat in a chair with his back arched. There was a way to make sure Karen won, by using the sword of Bond's search and telepath to let Bond solve the problems. It was possible to cheat without getting caught. Everyone noticed this method when they were talking about the duel, even Nick, who had completely lost his cool. Nick's fight with Leon would still be up for grabs, but the math problems would be completely in the bag. Nick and the others decided not to rely on Bond as much as possible. If push came to shove, they would disregard the rules to prioritize their own well-being, but they didn't want to rely on foul play before it was actually necessary. Nick thought this might actually be beneficial to Karen. There was a reason why the Adventurer Guild did this. There were actually a lot of people like Karen, who left their hometowns and were deceived upon reaching the city. There was a huge difference between the education in rural areas and cities, and a lot of people couldn't read and could only do the most basic calculations. They were perfect targets for people used to life in the Labyrinth City. Their lack of knowledge meant these people didn't even know how to report or ask for help, and their fate was usually tragic. For this reason, the Adventurer Guild would keep an eye on parties that took in people that were clearly from rural areas, and tried to educate and guide them. That was why they did things such as force math into duels, to try to correct the behavior of people that had a tendency to rely solely on violence. At that point, they couldn't say that this problem had been completely dealt with. When Karen was in the party, White held on, they didn't let her do anything other than fight, and would even try to avoid letting her have any contact with guild employees. Well, it's not like this is meaningless. But is it not better to rely on unfair means rather than let yourself be tripped up over something trivial? You do have a point. Sem didn't raise any objections and just nodded. Then why not use me? Nick says it's better to leave your trump card to the end. And this is just my opinion. No matter how great you are, it's hard to say for sure that no one is going to notice. We can't rule out them knowing what telepath is, and there is always the possibility that they might sense that something isn't right. I agree that you should be our trump card, and that we should get by for now without using you. Humph. All right. Bond reluctantly agreed, but Karen whispered with an anxious tone. But Sem. What is it, Karen? Will I even get to do anything? If Nick defeats Leon, then that's the end of that, right? I don't know about that. Is that Leon really that strong? A question mark circled Karen's head. There was no way Nick would lose a hand-to-hand fight to just some adventurer. He went crazy on that ogre when they fought one-on-one, so there was no way that tiger person named Leon could beat him. When they fought in the alley, Nick would have definitely beat him had it not been for the interference from Leon's fellow party member. I don't know about strong or weak, but before Nick left, he said you would definitely play a part in the duel, so you should get ready. Well, then I'll do my best. Karen, do you know what is our objective? To win the duel. No, that is just a means to an end. Then. Defeating those people, and make sure they can't do bad things anymore. Yes, those people are just going around doing as they please. We have no reason to hold back, do we? Sem had a sinister smile on his face. In any case, we need you to study so we can thoroughly beat them, so let's do our best. Now that I think about it, where are Nick and Tiana? They said they were going out to train, but they should be reaching the Dark Wolf Cave. I wanted to go explore a labyrinth too. Let's take a break after you solve this problem. I'm going out tonight too. I wish I was as carefree as you. Ah. That's not it, I have something I have to do as well. In any case, let's keep going, Karen. Yes. And then, Karen focused all of her energy on solving problems. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 42, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 8. The Dark Wolf Cave had a very threatening name, but it was a labyrinth for beginners. It was a cave with 5 floors, and it was populated by monsters with good night vision called Dark Wolves. Their attack power and stamina were not that great, and they were not as strong as fighting dogs used by tamers. However, inexperienced adventurers could be caught off guard by their ability to conceal their presence in the shadows and their agility. It was the most difficult labyrinth where G-ranked adventurers could enter. Shah. Giant. Nick knocked down a dark wolf with a counter blow, who whined like a pitiful dog. 2 more attacked Nick. One jumped from above, and the other attacked from below, as if it was crawling. That was a bad move. When you carelessly jump like that, you seal your own moves. Nick attacked the dark wolf coming from above with speed matching the wolf itself. Swinging his leg almost like a scythe, Nick stroked down the wolf with his heel. Wow! The dark wolf was sent flying downwards, and hit another dark wolf. Take that. And then, Nick hit the remaining one with his fist. The 3 wolves were dispatched in no time. Not bad. It was like a magic trick. Don't be silly. Anyone that practices hand-to-hand combat can step behind a dark wolf and attack it from the rear without using magic or anything. Sorry, I don't know anything about the world of fighting. Nick and Tiana were there all by themselves. Nick wanted to polish his fighting intuition before the duel, but he couldn't enter the labyrinth by himself, so he brought Tiana along, even though he was fighting the wolves by himself. Normally, you wouldn't take them down like that. You'd defend against the first attack, and take them down one at a time. Don't talk to me about what's normal. Why? With enemy search you can find where the wolves are hiding, so it's possible to attack preemptively. Taking down small fry like that is boring when you're here. Phew. It's nice, isn't it? Tiana smiled proudly. Well, it is nice to be safe, but thanks to that, I feel like I've gotten a little rusty. That doesn't mean you have to do this absurd training. Taking down monsters with nothing more than a knuckle guard. What? I kicked 2. So. Is Leon really so strong that you need to prepare so intensely? I wouldn't say strong. It's a little strange. Nick gave a vague answer. Strange? Let's put it like this, I'm pretty confident in my fighting skills. Well, not to the point where I can take down bosses with just hand-to-hand combat. Yes. But Leon lured me into a 2-on-1 situation. Well, 2-on-1 is pretty bad, right? That's not it, I was sure there was no one around. It's not like it was an ambush, it was more like his helper came running because he knew Leon was in trouble. Ah, so that's what's on your mind. Now that I think about it, the first time I met Leon was strange too. When I was talking to Claudine, He had no way of knowing that I had been expelled by my party, but the moment we started talking about that, they appeared. It was like it was transmitted to him instantaneously. I don't know what it is, but you're saying there's something you need to watch out for, right? Yes. Is that a problem that can be solved by practicing hand-to-hand combat? I have no idea. There's so much I don't understand, so I'm moving my body and my head. Do you have to move your head? That's up to Karen and Sem, not me. I asked Sem to investigate something for me, and I may have something to ask of you too. Well, if you have an idea then I don't mind, but what do you want me to do right now? My body is finally warmed up, so I'm going down to the other floor. Stay here and hold down the fort. You're more of a muscle head than I thought. Be careful. Nick waved his hand, and Tiana looked on with an exasperated expression. I think it's time to go back. Nick returned after being deep inside the labyrinth. You're dripping with sweat. Here. Thanks. Why are you dressed like that? It was hot so I took it off. Tiana threw a towel to Nick, who returned naked from the waist up. I took down about 30 of them. That'll be some nice pocket change. You have some nerve, you did that without using magic too. Wait, your arm is bleeding. It's not like I was bitten, I just scratched it on a rock. Sit down, we need to stop that bleeding. And we need to ask Sem to take a look at it when we get back. Yes, all right. I'll take a break and catch my breath. Yes. Nick sat down on a rock, and Tiana started wrapping bandages with styptic herbs around Nick's arm. And while she was at it, she handed Nick a canteen. Thanks. You're welcome. I wonder if they're hard at work studying right now. Karen and Sem. I'm sure they're fine, Karen is an honest girl. You're right, but honest is. What? I'm a little worried because she's too naive. You're the leader, so that's on you. Hey. Don't put that responsibility on me. Nick shrugged as he used the towel to wipe the sweat. He didn't have a thick body like muscular warriors, but his body was lean, with not a lot of fat. He had a lot of scars, as a result of his diligent training and adventuring. Tiana felt bad about looking, and turned away. Nick wiped the sweat and put on his jacket, as his body was starting to get cold. That was when Tiana grumbled a question. What? Do you still like that, Claudine? Of course not. I'm still pissed. So you're still mad? She ripped me off and looked down on me, how could I not be mad? I want to erase my past with her altogether. Is it not the same for you, Tiana? Tiana had a similar dark past. The person she saw as her boyfriend got together with another girl, and framed Tiana. I guess I'm still mad. I don't know what I would do if he appeared in front of me. But Tiana's eyes showed clear anger, not a never-ending obsession. But I don't think I want to erase the past, or follow him to the ends of the earth just to beat him to death or anything. Nick thought, well, that's normal, but didn't say it. Tiana was speaking seriously. I won't forgive him for setting me up. It wasn't just me, he caused a lot of trouble for the teachers, and I think one day I'll absolutely make him regret it. But I don't really regret falling in love with someone. Rather, I have to be engrossed in something. Love, playing, adventures, etc. If I graduated and married Alex, my former ex-fiancé, I'd probably get tired of it and run away from home anyway. I can see that. I can't see you as a young wife at all. Hey, why do you have to say something like that? You're the one that said it. You're supposed to disagree. Seriously though. Why yes. I don't like your ex-girlfriend, and I hate the tiger person that's always grinning next to her. That's why I got so angry, it wasn't for you, I did it because that's what I felt like doing. Saying that in such a refreshing way actually makes me feel better. Right? If I ever saw your ex-boyfriend I'd probably want to hit him too. You look like you want to do it. So. Do what you want to do as well. What I want to do. Of course, things like hitting nasty people, gambling, and watching an idol's live show fit into that category, but I'm talking more about a goal in life. Do you have anything like that? Nick remembered his former party. A goal in life. Yes. Do you have something, Tiana? Me? Well. I want to be a sage. Sage? When you attain recognition from the Sorcerer Association as both a sorcerer and a scholar, they bestow upon you the title of sage. So is that like an S-rank adventurer? Yes. Well, it's not like the country starts paying a salary of anything, so it's more like an honorary certification, but it would allow me to get a job in any research facility. You also get to talk face-to-face with royalty and nobility, so a lot of people are after this title. Are you after it? For now, I've been thinking about writing essays in between adventuring and gambling. I only have a tiny little chance of being recognized by the Sorcerer Association, so. Wow. That's out of this world. Nick let out a sigh of admiration. What? You have a chance to become an S-rank adventurer too, don't you? Don't you know? If you get to a rank or beyond, you're awarded a court rank, so you can become nobility. Yes, I know. There's no pay attached, but you become kind of like a celebrity here in the Labyrinth City. Oh, so you knew. Yes, but you'd have to be a hero to get to A or S rank. Hero. Usually it just means you're really strong, like an extension of being D or C rank. But when there's a big outbreak of miasma, and monsters start overflowing, A or S rank adventurers lead the charge to take them down. Or maybe they capture a dangerous villain with a bounty on their head. Those kinds of adventurers that are respected by everyone in the Labyrinth City truly are heroes. You know a lot about that. Are you actually aiming for a rank? Nick dejectedly shook his head. No, not really, but. I wanted to raise the rank of my former party. It wouldn't be an impossible task either, because everyone there was an experienced warrior. They even conquered labyrinths that were said to be impossible for parties without a sorcerer, with raw power alone. So if they worked diligently they could have gone up to a rank, or maybe even S rank. I wanted our leader to get more recognition from the rest of the world. Before Nick knew it, his usual vulgar way of speaking was gone. My parents were merchants, and traveled from town to town. Ever since I can remember, I walked through all sorts of places with them, but one day, they were killed by thieves. It was Argus who helped take those murderers down, the leader of all martial arts. Afterwards, he took a useless little kid like me and taught me how to fight and how to be an adventurer. Is that so? I wanted to repay my debt to him, and I thought I could compensate for what all martial arts was lacking. No, I really think I was succeeding in doing that, but. Nick didn't finish the sentence. So, do you regret that? Regret? Working so hard for that Argus. Do you think it would have been better to not do anything? No. I don't know about that. Nick frowned, and after a while, he shook his head. Maybe it was all for my own self-satisfaction, but I don't know if I didn't accomplish anything. We had our disagreements, and in the end, I was expelled, but I think I needed to do something for someone else. I see. Well, now I want to be better than them. I look forward to the day when I make that idiot regret what he did. Said Nick with a smile, to which Tiana smiled back. That's nice, I think it's good to get back at them like that. Become an A or S rank adventurer and show them you were right. It's really interesting to think about you as a hero of this city. That sounds good. That's the spirit. I'm going to need you to work hard without holding anything back too. Yes, but this time, it's all about you. Do your best. Nick turned away and scratched his head. It seemed like it had hit a nerve, and Tiana looked on, thinking it was amusing. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 43, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 9. The nighttime red light district had a surprising amount of information about adventurers. Being an adventurer was a fickle job. There were days when profits were big, days when they were next to nothing, and moments when a split decision meant the difference between life and death. Because of this, most male adventurers were drawn to the nightlife of the city, to forget about the fleetingness of their line of work. In this place they would lose the earnings of that day, and maybe let a few secrets slip out. Sem was well aware of these habits. After all, he could be a representative of such men. I see. So there was that. That's right. There's actually a lot of men out there that were tricked by that light-headed girl. It was a hostess bar that Sem frequented, the Spirit of Spring. This time, Sem was there at Nick's request, being poured drinks by Melissa, a woman with whom he got along with. Karen was shocked that he would go to such a place to have fun while she studied, but Sem told her this was an important job, before he walked through the door. Are you involved with that Claudine or something, Sem? She uses her male friends like bodyguards and goes around cheating men, you know. His job was to look into Claudine's behavior. If she was willing to go to her favorite cafe and do something close to marriage fraud, maybe her bad behavior attracted more attention than they thought. Sem decided to follow up on this idea by going to various places and asking about her, but in the first place he went to, information started pouring out like water from a bucket with a hole. There are some awful people out there, said Sem, while holding back a smile. No kidding. It's because of people like her that people doubt totally safe places like ours. Do you know of anyone that has been victimized by her? Ah. This is a secret, but there was this adventurer that stopped by like every weekend named Duffy N. And like, I'm so thirsty. Oh, all right. Drink whatever you like. Thank you so much. There's also Colne and Rolls, and a dwarf from the blacksmith street named Jisson. 4 people. I see. Sem had a grin on the inside as he listened. The useful information just kept coming. Haven't there been any lawsuits or challenges to a duel? There's been some duels, but, you know, Leon is like really strong, and he wins pretty much everything. I see. Wait, are you trying to like, punish Claudine or something? Who knows? Don't act all innocent. But be careful, that guy Leon that's her bodyguard or boyfriend or something, is really strong. And their friend named Beck is creepy. Are they that dangerous? I don't really know a lot about it, but people say they have like a trump card or something. Apparently that's how they beat a guy as strong as Duffy. Strong? Duffy is a C-rank adventurer, so he's no pushover. People say that Leon guy has great instincts, like he has eyes on the back of his head. But it's not just brawls, right? Yes, they do weird tests or quizzes or something, but he doesn't lose that either. It's not fair that he's not only strong but has a good mind too. He's good at gambling and popular with women too. But, you know, he's made a bunch of enemies, so he only willingly approaches weak guys. I see. If you want to know more you have to ask Duffy directly. But watch what you say, because it looks like that whole thing hurt his pride pretty badly. Don't worry about that, I'm a former priest. A bad priest. But you might be more reliable than the Order of the Sun, said Melissa with a smile as she poured Sem another drink, who happily drank it. About that Order of the Sun. They protect the peace around here, right? They're, like, a bit pushy and arrogant, so they're not really well liked. There are rumors that they've been after Leon, but who knows? I see. The Order of the Sun doesn't really want to get involved, so they won't say. No, it's fine. Thank you very much. Do you want another drink, Melissa? Oh. Thanks. Melissa prepared another drink for herself, and Sem lost himself in thought. I got a lot of useful information out of her, so I'll go out tomorrow too. I never thought I would become good at this conspiracy stuff. Sem laughed at himself, as he thought about how he was doing the same sort of thing as the person that framed him. Strangely enough, Sem didn't find this unpleasant. Fighting a conspiracy with a conspiracy was no bad thing. Time went by quickly, and soon enough, it was time for the duel. Nick and the others did all the preparations they could, and headed towards the roof of the Adventurer Guild Fishermen, where the duel would take place. There were two venues set up. One was very simple, it was nothing more than 4 white lines forming a square, and crude markers marking where the competitors would be out of bounds. It was not like they would be disqualified or lose points if they stepped outside, but if they did, the audience would be allowed to push them back inside. It was not possible to get away without giving up, and the lines were there for the sake of this savage rule. The two competitors were standing by on 2 opposite sides. It's been a while, little Nick. I'm surprised you didn't just run away. That's my line. The atmosphere was tense, and it seemed like they were about to come to blows at any second, before the match even started. This time, they weren't allowed to wear boots or clothing on their upper bodies, let alone bring equipment or weapons. Both were naked from the waist up, and burning with fighting spirit. Get him. Leon, don't let that loner act like he owns the place. Nick. Rip the tail right off that cheating cat. People that saw Nick's way of doing things as peculiar and didn't like his actions sided with Leon. Meanwhile, those that knew what Leon had been doing, cheered for Nick. There was feverish excitement all around, not just inside the square. While the men stood in the midst of this violent atmosphere, some had serious expressions on their faces, and were close to 2 tables and chairs were set up outside the white square, facing each other. 2 girls sat at them. Ah, just start already. Don't you think so too? Be quiet. One had chestnut color hair, and was the image of a girlish girl. She was Claudine of the Steel Tiger crew, and she sounded bored as she picked a split end of her hair. The other girl was Karen, and she wasn't the least bit interested in what Claudine had to say. She had her eyes closed and was concentrating on what she studied so quickly in the previous days. You're so serious. Boring. Stop it with those useless provocations. We'll be starting soon, but the boys go first. Wilma's voice echoed throughout the roof. The sun was at its highest point, and the boys' shadows distinctly rose in the ground. Attacks to the eyes or below the belt, magic, and weapons are forbidden. The match will be decided by a 10 count, fainting, or submission. Obviously, killing is also not allowed. Other than that, punch, kick, and throw all you want. Alright. Ready when you are. Start. Nick stepped forward as soon as he heard Wilma's commanding voice, and attacked Leon with a viciously fast hook, but... Oops. That was close. Leon dodged as if he was expecting it, and back stepped away. Aren't you going to attack? What's the rush? The match just started. Leon provoked Nick, who stepped forward once again and delivered a left jab, that Leon strongly guarded against. Leon wasn't strong, he devoted his entire attention to deflecting attacks. TCH. Nick started attacking with more precise and short blows, but Leon put up his arms to guard, and avoided critical damage. When Nick's attack stopped, Leon attacked with a low kick. Oops. But Nick safely dodged by stepping back. You. What? Do you hate kicks? There was a breathing sound, and at that exact moment, Leon targeted Nick's midsection with a kick. Beast People's explosive power easily outclassed regular people's, and Nick guarded by tightening his midsection. Cool. I knew it. What? You're just buying time. Nick purposefully guarded against this kick, and let his posture falter just a little, to show an opening, but Leon didn't get close. In fact, he stepped back to survey the situation. Am I? Leon was probably attacking just enough to not make it obvious that he had no intention to go on the offensive, and was just focusing on guarding and dodging to take the fight to the next round. This stalemate continued, until Wilma rang the bell, signaling that the time was up. The direction of the match was now in Karen and Claudine's hands. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 44, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 10. Karen's expression stayed the same, even after Nick's match was over. She had her eyes closed, and was concentrating on reviewing what she had been learning. The village of dragon people, or rather, most settlements in regions far from cities, didn't think education was very important. On the other hand, places like the Labyrinth City in the royal capital, where vestiges of the ancient civilization remain strong, place a much higher degree of importance in education, and the idea of children going to school is very deeply rooted in society. There was a very clear gap. Because of this, there were many people that were cheated in the Labyrinth City, like Karen, and many people that cheated others, like Claudine. There were those that pitted people like Karen, but did so from afar, and never attempted to do something on a fundamental level. Some also saw being cheated by someone from the city as a rite of passage for people from the countryside, so not many people actually gave them a helping hand. Very, very few people would get upset and tell them to learn. Hey, did you fall asleep? Be quiet. Why are you talking like that? I'm just giving you a heads up. From the other side, she glared at Claudine with her eyes half open, which was enough to make her shut up. Karen couldn't wrap her head around the fact that Nick fell for this girl and gave her what she wanted. Why do you live like that? Ah. Isn't there anything you like? Are you picking a fight with me or something? It's not like that. It's fine if there's nothing, said Karen, before she looked away. Claudine's glare was intense. If you want to fight, do it later. Wilma approached them. The boys' match ended in a timeout, so now it's your turn. Good. Got it. The time limit is the same as their match, 5 minutes. We will start by having you solve basic problems. Most people can probably answer everything correctly, but the more rounds they fight, the harder the questions get. Get ready. Start. Karen and Claudine flipped their question sheets at the same time, and on it, were very simple math problems. They were only addition or subtraction problems with 2 or 3 columns. Great. I understand this. Karen felt the results of her training. She had only been learning from Nick and Sem for less than a month, but it was certainly helping. She could do calculations in her head with no problem. What she could do gradually increased, and now she could put it to the test. She even forgot about her enmity towards the other person, and just let the pen run through the paper. Alright, time's up. The 5 minutes went by quickly. Karen and Claudine wrote down the same exact answers, and naturally, nothing was decided, so the duel carried on with Nick and Leon's fight. The stalemate continued for 3 rounds, but something changed in the 4th round. Karen got 90 points, and Claudine 100. Wilma said with her cold voice. A difference of 10 points or more meant that a handicap would be added. In this case, it meant that the opponent would be granted a free hit. Karen clenched her teeth, looking frustrated. What are you going to do now? The gap is just going to get wider and wider. Claudine sneered at her. At the same time, Nick and Leon faced each other. Now where should I hit? Get it over with. You got it. Leon pretended he was going to hit Nick's face, but attacked his midsection with a hook. Guh. Tch. Are you really a normal person? Angrily said Leon, even though it was him who hit Nick. Nick quietly took the hit, but didn't so much as gasp in pain, because he learned how to tighten his body in an instant to reduce damage. It definitely did cause damage, but he managed to make it appear as though it did not, although Leon wasn't the reason why he wanted to make it seem like there was no damage done at all. Karen. And Nick. I can take as many hits as this coward can dish out with no problem. Focus on what's in front of you. Nick saw that Karen looked as though she was the one being hit, and tried to encourage her. Got it. Karen's face was tight, but when she heard Nick, she closed her eyes again, almost as though she was meditating. You sure can talk. Come at me if you want me to shut up. Leon. Why are you running? Attack. Nick. Finish him. He's looking down on you. It was the 6th round, and the match was in a stalemate once again. There was once again a point difference in the math test, so, just as it happened in the 4th round, Nick was receiving blows before the round started. Still, it didn't seem like Leon was trying to finish it. By this point, the spectators caught on to the fact that Leon was stalling. Even when it seemed like he was going on the offensive, it was nothing more than posturing so as to not make it seem like he was sabotaging the match. Time's up. Leon dodged Nick's fists, and made his way back to his corner with safe footwork, not paying heed to the jeers from the crowd. Once again, it was Karen and Claudine's turn to fight. Karen's off-the-cuff knowledge was bottoming out, but she still held on. Karen and Claudine finished their tests with near-perfect scores, and once again, the ball was in Nick and Leon's court. It didn't seem like it would end in this round either. Hey, do you have a moment? Tiana had a feeling that the match would continue to be prolonged. What is it, sorcerer from Survivors? It's Tiana. Can you just combine everything? Combine? At this rate this is never going to end. You still have a few rounds of tests, right? I'm saying you should combine them. Wilma started thinking, but people in attendance started booing in agreement with Tiana. Yes. Finish it already. How long are you going to prolong this? Quiet. The people dueling decide the rules. Or do you want to brawl too? Wilma's intense screaming shut down the audience's complaints. So, what do you think, Claudine? WL. Fine by me. Claudine looked at Karen in disbelief. Simple questions wouldn't create a big difference in points, but clearly Claudine would benefit from a rise in difficulty. She was sure that a dragon person could not beat her when it came to intelligence. Above all else, Claudine and her party had a trump card. What about you? Wilma looked at Karen. As you wish. Karen crossed her arms, and didn't raise any objections. Alright, then the time limit will be 30 minutes, so solve as many as you can. Wilma started getting the question sheets ready and, with a thud, she placed a bundle of paper on their desk. I don't expect you'll be able to answer them all. You would need to be a graduate of a school for nobles to be able to answer the hardest questions here, so stay calm and answer what you can. Well then, start. Wilma rung the bell, and the test was once again underway. Something surprising happened, and the audience watching Karen started murmuring. Karen started solving problems with lightning speed. Her pen ran quickly, the blank paper she was handed to use for calculations filled up with numerical formulas, and the answers were being shot out into the answer sheet. As if the curtain of a stage was opening, she turned over a new question sheet and steadily continued answering new questions. Why, you're kidding. Claudine instinctively looked at Karen's face, and saw a serious expression. The easygoing smile was gone from Claudine's face, and it was replaced by utter shock. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 45, Bare Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 11. Claudine. This isn't the time to be looking at your opponent. Wilma warned Claudine, who was fixated on Karen. Claudine frantically looked away towards the question sheet, but she didn't become any less flustered. Why? Claudine knew very well that dragon people were not particularly bright, even among people from rural areas. They were blessed with physical strength and magic energy that permitted them to fight 2-on-1 against other kinds of beast people, and many emerged from the war against demons as heroes and were respected, but many were also content to rest on those laurels. On the other hand, Claudine was a simple human. She knew she had a nice face, but not the shining beauty of an idol. She was always good with her hands, but didn't have the strength of a man or the magic energy of a sorcerer. She didn't have a house or any assets. Her parents worked as stagecoach personnel, but were fired due to petty embezzlement. When it started to seem like they were going to sell her off to slavery, Claudine ran for her life. She couldn't rely on her family in the same way that dragon people can rely on their clan. She knew all too well that she possessed very little tools needed to make it in this world, and she was jealous of people that did, those blessed by the heavens. Claudine decided to fight back. It was only natural for people with no skills to rely on underhanded means. She was actually fully aware that Nick wasn't an adventurer that should be underestimated. He seemed to not hold himself in high regard, but he had a good eye for equipment and loot, so he had a good head on his shoulders. He lamented his own lack of raw physical strength, but just the fact that he could keep up with all martial arts proved he was not just an average adventurer. At the very least, he was much stronger than an average girl like Claudine. But when he was kicked out of all martial arts, she figured he fell down to her level, or that she was even better than him. Sneering at Nick felt good. Yes, people were equal. Eventually, everyone would be brought down to their knees by this cruel world. Surely, he would drop down to the depths of despair after being betrayed by her, and once he was ready to drop dead, she could offer a little kindness, and give him back one of the things she had stolen. Once he realized how weak people survived in this city filled with vice and immorality, she would guide him. But Nick proceeded in a completely different way than Claudine expected. He looked for new partners, did things that surprised even intermediate adventurers, and even helped someone being scammed by her. She could have just stopped. She could have simply not gone after someone that was becoming successful, and be content with living in a world where she could become a winner. Deep down she knew how foolish it was, and she understood that she was being blind to her own shortcomings, but Claudine still thought to get revenge on Nick. Her plan was to wangle some money out of a merchant's idiot son, betray Leon, and escape the city, but even that was thrown out. She couldn't forgive Nick for joining forces with others and living an honest life. Leon probably noticed her imminent betrayal, but still went along with her revenge. He probably realized that even though Nick should have hit rock bottom after being cheated and started walking the same path they did, he instead went off to a different place where the sun shined. I'm not losing to this idiot. Karen heard Claudine's mumble, but she sighed, as if to say she didn't care about such scorn. I think idiots are the ones that stay idiots, so you're the only idiot, said Karen with a boring-sounding tone, which made Claudine snap. Beck. Trump card. Yes, I'm ready. I have a reference book and an abacus. I'm going to start dictating the problems, so go ahead and solve them. Claudine sneakily sent magic energy to the orb hidden close to her chest. She could have stopped. Claudine didn't notice that Karen sensed something was happening, but felt pity towards her. She also didn't notice that the other members of Survivors, who were supposed to be watching the match attentively, were gone. Beck was a sorcerer from Steel Tiger Crew. Even though he was a sorcerer, he lived by the principles of not thinking about things too much and living a simple life. He learned new things, performed magic, drank good alcohol, and was waited upon by women simply because he enjoyed it. He spent his money very liberally, and when he didn't have any, he borrowed it. It was no wonder a man with such a reckless and pleasure-seeking lifestyle fell into the hell known as debt. When a bill collector stripped him of all he had and was about to send him to a mine, he was saved by Leon, who bought him as a slave. Beck thought for sure Leon was a homosexual, but it turned out not to be the case, and Leon simply wanted an underling that could use magic. And so, Beck's life became a series of dangerous bridges for him to cross. When Claudine cheated a man, he was there to be her bodyguard, and when Leon swindled other adventurers, he was there to be his partner in crime. Beck didn't do these things out of his own volition, but he also had no complaints. Leon was a scammer, but he wasn't very stingy when it came to rewards, and he could drink good alcohol as long as he did what was asked of him properly. If this led to Beck committing evil, then so be it. Beck had gone through a horrible time after being cheated himself, so now it was his turn to do the cheating, and he saw no problem with that. What was the problem with being friendly with scammers like Leon and Claudine? There was no darkness surrounding Beck like Leon and Claudine, and he didn't even have any interest in such things. He was only interested in his own pleasure, and wouldn't complain about what anyone else was doing, which pleased Leon and Claudine. I see. Hold on, let me do some calculations. Hurry up. Yes. By using a telepathy orb, Beck was solving the math problems that Claudine was seeing. He was no idiot, in fact, his mind worked rather quickly and he had no issues solving problems or looking things up. Simply put, he had endless indifference towards things that didn't interest him. Alright. That Claudine sure worries a lot. Mumbled Beck to himself, as he sipped some coffee. Beck was currently in the cafe next to Fisherman, with a reference book open and working out the problems he heard using telepath. Beck felt something was odd. The difficulty level was strangely high, and there was no way the Dragon Girl could solve them so easily. Ah, damn it, I made a mistake. I have to start over. Hohu, do you find those problems that difficult? I can assist you if you wish. Oh, thanks. Beck was focused on the problems, and was only now noticing someone else had entered his private room. Yes, stay still, and take out the orb. There's no point in trying to break it either. I know that is one of the telepath stones from the Labyrinth of Bonds, but it is fine, we will not be rough as long as you behave. It was a boy with white hair, with a man that looked like a priest and a sorcerer girl. They were blocking the exit. So. Do you want us to get rough? The sorcerer's alluring smile made Beck lose the will to resist. Adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world, Chapter 46, Bare-Knuckle Arithmetic, Part 12. Hey Beck. What happened? What are you doing over there? She used telepath, but received no response. Could it be that those problems were too difficult for even Beck to solve? Claudine certainly hoped that was the case, because she didn't want to think about the worst-case scenario. But as she was thinking this, something a little worse than what she feared was developing. Claudine thought that even if what she had been doing arouses suspicion, no one would come up with any proof. There were rarely any telepath orbs in the market, and the number of people who knew of its existence was even lower. Claudine thought she could hide her trick forever. That was until Beck appeared on the roof of the Adventurer Guild, tied with a rope. Sorry Claudine and Leon, I messed up. Beck had an innocent smile on his face, and Tiana and Sem walked alongside him, preventing any attempts to escape. Referee, they were cheating. Tiana tossed the orb to Wilma. Is this a telepath orb? So you know what it is. That makes things simpler. Yes. No doubt about it, someone can cheat as much as they want with something like this. Claudine quickly decided her next course of action. She kicked over her table, and rushed straight towards Wilma, but no matter how fast she was, her telegraphed actions were pointless. A hand grabbed Claudine's leg with vicious strength. Jaya! Don't run. The match isn't over yet. Karen knew Claudine would try to run away, and was already on the move. She then lifted Claudine with one hand. What match? You were just pretending to solve questions, weren't you? Claudine angrily protested, and she was correct. It seemed like Karen was solving questions with an incredible speed, but it was just a bluff to make Claudine impatient and force her to use her trump card. It's a pretty innocent lie compared to all you've been doing. Shut up. Let me go. You want me to let you go? Said Karen, with Claudine still suspended in the air, who realized what was about to happen and frantically started shaking her head. She was either going to slam her or drop her, and Claudine was very well aware that a Karen boiling with anger would not go easy on her. Alright, I won't run away. Then stay still. Karen tossed Claudine to the floor of the roof, and with a pitiful shriek, Claudine lost consciousness. Damn it. Only Leon was left, but the adventurers around him would not allow him to escape. The rule that would not allow the participants to leave the venue came back to bite him. Hey Leon. Damn you. You set me up. I don't want to hear that from you. Not that it isn't true though. Said an exasperated Nick. Leon. You thought you were doing a great job tricking everyone with the telepath orb, but most people were already suspicious of you. The whole reason the old woman put this duel together was to smoke you out. Stop calling me an old woman. Well, the only miscalculation was the fact that survivors noticed what was going on. The Adventurer Guild was in fact in cohorts with a party, but it was the survivors. It all started with Sem. As a result of his efforts gathering information during the night, he managed to find several people that were victimized by the Steel Tiger crew. Their testimony led to the conclusion that the Steel Tiger crew was somehow cheating in duels and gambling, and said cheating started ramping up after they explored the labyrinth of bonds. Sem remembered Bond saying that there should have been telepath orbs when they were in the labyrinth of bonds. The Steel Tiger crew most likely took the magic items they found while exploring the labyrinth without presenting them to the guild, much like how survivors hid the Sword of Bonds. Sem took this circumstantial evidence to Wilma of the Adventurer Guild, and proposed the possibility that the Steel Tiger crew was involved in systematic scamming and cheating. The Adventurer Guild also noticed something was strange, but couldn't do anything due to lack of evidence. The whole mess that led to a duel between the Steel Tiger crew and survivors was a godsend to the guild. It was their chance to obtain evidence and expose all the cheating that had been going on. Sem smiled while saying, "So basically you're just using us," and Wilma dropped any pretense and admitted it. And then, a deal was made. We agreed that the Adventurer Guild would reward us if we could expose the Steel Tiger crew's cheating. Our dungeon exploration was delayed, so this will be a nice source of income," said Sem to Leon while smiling. It seemed momentum was on their side. The audience became focused on not letting Leon get away. There were probably people among them who were cheated by Leon while gambling. Shouts of "give the money back" started spreading. "Leon, how about you give up and end it here?" said Nick. "What? I'm telling you to start fighting for real. At least be cool in the end." "Damn it." Leon assaulted Nick with killing intent, but even as it clouded his vision, he did not falter. He learned techniques that made use of his flexibility, which Nick found sad. Leon's skill was definitely not bad, in fact, his muscles showed the results of his constant training. The way he was stalling before was no easy feat either. It required both the muscles he had been developing, and a strong force of will to not become impatient. He also needed experience and guts when it came time to attack. Much like the answer to complicated mathematical equations, there had to be a decisive blow at the end, but... Wah! Sorry, but it ends here. When that was all someone could do, the opponent could figure out the answer when the time came. No matter how great of a blow it was, Nick could easily evade it. Before Leon knew it, Nick's fist was buried into his cheek.